We're looking for the midline from a trig graph. The midline is the middle of basically this oscillating function. So oscillating just meaning it goes up and down. To find our midline, the midline, number one, it's going to be some sort of y equals equation. So keep that in mind. It's y equals some number, and that's going to cut through. That's a horizontal. The horizontal line, right? So it cuts through horizontally. So the midline is going to be equal to the average of the maximum and the minimum. The maximum and the minimum. And remember, we're in the context of y values here, all right? So the biggest y values or the outputs. So when I look at this, the average idea is you add them up and divide by how many there are. So in this case, we're looking for the biggest value I see for y, which is 3. So that would be the max. The max is 3 here. And then what's the minimum? What's the smallest value we see? -5. How many values do we have here? We have 2 values, so we divide by 2. That's the average idea. So in this case, that'd be 3 minus 5, which is -2, divided by 2. That's equal to -1. -1. And so that would be y equals -1. That's our midline. Midline. So I'll go to my graph. Where's -1 at? It's right here. And usually we'll just use like a dashed line to represent the midline idea. And it should make sense. It should be halfway between these two numbers. So anytime you want to find a halfway point, it's the average idea. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 units up, 1, 2, 3, 4 units down, which would be called the amplitude, just to kind of get us used to the vocabulary here. But in this case, we're just looking for the midline. The midline, and they want the equation of the midline. So my equation, it should be y equals -1. Got it. All right. You're basically showing one complete cycle. And yes, so that's kind of make sure you write it y equals. Of course, it's always y equals for these horizontal lines. I was hoping they would have y equals. I would have been shocked and ashamed if they didn't, but they do, so we're okay. Let's take a look at the next one. Exactly the same kind of problem. So you're just plugging them into the formula that I've just shown you. Determine the equation of the midline. Look at the max, add it to the minimum, divide them by 2. And I just want to kind of make sure you're using the equation. I know for a lot of these you can eyeball it, but it's really important that we get used to the equation here.